What is up, my friends? It is a brand new week. It is a brand new show, and you are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. We are, of course, going to be discussing the, well, I guess, burgeoning, breaking news around the contract situations. Lots of positive stuff to talk about today, which is going to be brilliant. We've got Ornstein, Sasha Cavalieri, and many others tweeting, talking, writing about the contract of Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah. We're going to be discussing why Liverpool fans aren't able to really talk to Trent, and lots of other bits and pieces. Well, talk about Trent is probably better. We're going to be giving you some news on the new signing Liverpool have made, but not on the pitch, behind the scenes signing, and of course a couple of other bits and pieces as well. So I hope you're all well, as well as can be after yesterday's frustrating game. Again, still hasn't really sunken in yet, the whole game yesterday. Look, it's weird, right? We've become so accustomed to not being beaten that it feels very alien when you do lose a game. Obviously, Nottingham Forest game all the way back when. The Reds were on a 26-game unbeaten run until yesterday. So it's difficult. We haven't been used to it. Although, you might argue with me. Hang on a minute here, Craigo. We lost in the League Cup final. And, of course, we lost in the Champions League as well. But in the league, it's been pretty good going. So we got to discuss, was this a blip? What can we do better? What can Arne Slot learn from it? And, of course, you know, who does need to be benched moving forward? Right, let's get into some of your comments tonight in the chat. Hope we sweep Leicester aside as easily as Newcastle are doing tonight, said Philip. Yep, 3-0 up currently as I sit here. Well, before I went on, it was 3-0. Aryan, I'm doing good, my man. So look, which one do you want to talk about first tonight, folks? Do you want to talk about the Virgil situation or the Mo situation? I've probably got a bit more information tonight on the Virgil one, but Mo has been credited with agreeing the outline of a new deal as well, so I can talk about whichever one you want. Mukarab wants it to be Salah. Let's see what Salah, Virgil. I love this. I love watching back as Salah. Right, well, the first 3 out of the first 4 were Salah. So let's go. Oh, hang on though. VVD's making a big comeback here in the comments. Right, let's talk Salah, considering that was the first name. Mukrab was in first with the word Mohamed Salah. So let's talk a little bit about Mo first. 1 second, I'm just going through my notes. So this piece here from Sasha Cavalieri, who I would say I wouldn't have in my top tier of journalists, but still somebody that has been quite active on the situation. Today, he said, Mohamed Salah now close to a contract extension as first called by Santi_J_FM. Liverpool FC legend has reached an agreement in principle for 2 more years at the club. Another piece that I'm going to speak about a little bit later on reckons that Mohamed Salah is even willing to take a slight pay cut to stay at Liverpool Football Club. But David Ornstein also followed on this situation as well, speaking about Virgil van Dijk, which we'll talk about in a while. But on Mo, he said, talks have been positive. Liverpool have been confident throughout it that they will secure the services. And he said, it's more a case, like I said with Virgil van Dijk, more a case of when than if Mohamed Salah will sign. So the reason we're bringing it to you tonight in such a positive way and we're standing behind these statements is when you've got David Ornstein kind of backing up some of the stuff that Sasha Cavalieri and Santi_J_FM have been speaking about, well, then you can see that, yeah, there must be something to this. So Mohamed Salah for 2 more years on either the same wages or on slightly less. Would you be happy with that? So that's what I'm going to ask for tonight's first poll in the chat. Would you be happy with Mo, 2 years, let's say same money? So, are you happy with Salah on a 2-year same money deal? That's what I'm going to ask. Now, I haven't got absolute concrete clarification that it will be the exact same money, but it looks like it's going to be there or thereabouts. So, are you happy with Salah on a 2-year deal? Let me know. On same money, I should say. So, Salah, 2-year, same money deal. Are you happy? Yay or nay? Jen, how are you? Jen, by the way, I spotted your comment on the earlier video as well. Wanted to say thank you for that one. Appreciate it. And Jen's gifted 10 memberships. Really kind of you, Jen. So whoever gets those memberships, best of luck. And thank you to Jen once again. My mate Jimbo's actually over in Liverpool now with his couple of young sons as well, enjoying a little trip over there. So it's killing him because he's a Celtic fan. So it's killing him to take his young lad over there. But fair play. Jeremy said no because he deserves a raise. Do you know, I've always said I don't really think he does deserve a raise. And I'll explain why. I've no problem on the same money, but for a raise for me, you've got to be getting better. And I don't think any of us can make a real argument that Mo's gotten better. He's certainly kept up his tally of goals and assists, and he's certainly contributing to the team, and we'd be lost without him. But I don't think he's gotten better. I think you have to reflect the deal with Father Time as well. So 2 years on the same or similar money. This is what, if you go back and watch earlier streams around this is exactly what I was saying I would hope for. So if this is the case, I'm absolutely happy with it. If it's 2 years on similar or the same money, I think that's a brilliant deal for everybody. It's what we always wanted, said Matt Denny. It's a new tax year soon. Funny it's all coming out now. Well, if you look back historically, we do have a history of putting out positive announcements or teasing out positive news after a disappointing result. So losing Champions League finals, stuff like that. The club do have a history of putting out some good news because they don't want to let the bad news fester, which I always enjoy, to be honest. Is Virgil for 2 years as well? That, Paul, as I say here now, I don't know. I couldn't say 100%, but I would imagine you're talking similar. Yeah, it would make much more sense. You know, one deal doesn't really work for anyone. 1 year deal, I mean, excuse me, because we're having this conversation then from the very start of next season again if we're talking about a 1 year deal. Aren't new deals really a bonus for the work you've done in the past? No, absolutely not. And you talk to anybody, even in the media, about this, it is, what are you doing now? You know, you can't pay somebody for what they've done in the past for the future. It doesn't make sense. So for me, you pay them of what they're worth now. And Mo certainly doesn't really deserve a pay cut. But much of a rise, I just don't see the value in that for the club. And seemingly the club haven't seen that either. But look, ultimately, as a Liverpool fan, this is what we want. We want Mo staying. We want Virgil staying. And if it's a deal that, you know, isn't going to really mess the club over financially, looking ahead to the summer window as well. Now, what I can't say to you, Jeremy, and I'd be interested to find this out myself, is this linked to the Trent situation? Like, have these moved along a little bit now because the club maybe have more clarity on what's going on with Trent and maybe feel like they can push a little few quid extra from maybe their initial offers? Which, remember, that Egyptian journalist that posted about the initial offer from Mo said it was significantly less than the money that he was on. So if they've gotten up to pretty much parity with what he's on now, must feel happy enough to sign that for another couple of years. And I'm over the moon about that. So let's talk, while you guys are voting away on that one and we're talking about Mo, we'll move on to Virgil in a moment. But I want to just post something that Anfield Sector put out, because I think they've got a point here. So Anfield Sector posted something, and then Transfer News Live posted a couple of images around it. But let me know your thoughts on this, right? Because I think there's a real point here. Jack Grealish signed a new deal with a £100 million release clause so Aston Villa would recoup a fee and Villa fans boo him out of town. But Liverpool fans aren't allowed to be upset at Trent running down his contract and walking for free. Think about that for a second. Because we are being told by so many Sky Sports football experts that we should be clapping Trent and applauding the situation. But we've shown many instances now of players and clubs who have looked after the club by making sure that they sign an extension. It means the club gets money. Even go looking at Timo Werner when he was at Leipzig, similar thing. Jack Grealish, a new deal with a £100 million release clause to make sure Villa got paid. And they did. They got paid 100 million quid. And he still gets booed. So yeah, I agree with this. I don't like this protecting Trent from the real world bollocks that we've had to put up with. Let Trent hear the frustrations. I don't want him abused. I don't want threats or anything against them. I'd never ever condone or ask for any of that. But he should be made to understand how people feel. And sheltering him from this stuff, I don't see the point of it. Because ultimately, I would hope that maybe if he sees how deeply upset Liverpool fans are, if he does care about the club as much as we all believe he does, then maybe he'll have a change of heart. You know? I get it. By the way, I get the other side of this argument as well. Some people will say, well, there's no loyalty in football anyway. Tough. And that's a fair point as well. Right, Stevie boy. How are you, my friend? Mo staying and taking a pay cut, meanwhile a certain Scouser was off to Madrid to win a Ballon d'Or. You know, it's a fair point, Stevie boy. And look, I've said this to you guys as well. For me, I feel a little bit manipulated as a fan by Trent's situation. So I agree. I would have loved us to have recouped a decent fee, not this paltry 20 million nonsense that Real Madrid were offering in January or whatever it was. A real fee. And Trent could have done that. But you know why? And I'm going to give you my unfiltered opinion on this. Do you know why I don't think he's done it? Because Real Madrid don't value him enough to pay for him. That's why. So, and look, I'm being honest about it. Maybe you disagree with me. But if Real Madrid were to pay £50 million for Trent, I don't think they'd be at the table. I think they'd have no interest. I think they only want them because it's going to cost them just the wages and the signing on fee. You might think I'm wrong on that, and if you do, feel free to let me know. But for me, that's where the situation is. And it must be a weird one, right? Thinking you're going to a club, a big club, you want to go to the club, but the only reason they want you is because you're free. That's what I see happening here. Watching Leicester getting battered by Newcastle, it's sad to see where the club is at. I always kind of liked them, especially as the 2016 winners, said the legend. I didn't mind Leicester until some of the tragedy chanting, which really wound me up. And some of the behaviour, some of their fans wound me up. But ultimately, it is what it is, you know. Yeah, they're going back down. They're probably going to say bye-bye to Vardy at the end of the season, I think. And look, something has to be done about the Premier League and the way relegation is just happening over and over again to most clubs coming up. There's been a couple of exceptions, Brentford being one of them. But, you know, not very often I'd agree with Troy Deeney. But I was listening to Match of the Day last night, and I actually did agree with a lot of Troy Deeney's comments about these teams coming up and trying to emulate the Manchester Cities, the Liverpools, the Arsenals with the way they play football and not sticking to what got them there. Tanya, how are you, my friend? A member with us for 16 months. Surely we're due some good news and scores. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I think we are starting to see this stuff come out today. So let's talk about Virgil for a second, because David Ornstein again has been pretty upbeat on this one, and lots of reports today have been speaking about the fact that the two boys will be staying. We got Fabrizio Romano said there is progress from Virgil. He said that himself as well. There are internal discussions. I love the club, I love Liverpool, I love the fans. And everybody's starting to tease soon. Journalists and everybody else on social media are starting to post little, you know, sand timer emojis with soon. So let's see when we get this announcement. But I think we can start to feel a bit excited about it. It'll be a big relief for me, and it will, you know, I'm going to be honest, it'll really let me celebrate and enjoy the end of the season once I know Virgil and Mo are secure. What's this one? So John Cross of the Mirror has said that Liverpool could be in for a big summer even if they keep Van Dijk and Salah. Well, I should hope so, because keeping Van Dijk and Salah is going to be, you know, keeping the base together, keeping the spine of the team, and then building around that, of course. But look, it's all far better far more upbeat news than we've received in the last few days anyway. We've all kind of hoped that a lot of the murmurings were true, but now I think it is, and I think we're going to get this announcement soon enough, and hopefully everybody's happy, because I'm certainly happy as a fan. Sam said, just watch your short about Chiesa. Slot needs to be honest about the situation. Chiesa is nothing but positive so far, and the man has so much to prove. Sam, I think most people, my friend, would agree with you. I don't know what the short was, because it would have been a short that was part of a longer bit of content, but I know roughly what I was talking about yesterday, and my thoughts were he's been underutilised. As somebody who comes on and to me looks like he wants to be there, works hard, creates opportunities, I don't see why we're not seeing more of him. But I guess we're going to find out in the summer if he stays or not. I'd like to see him utilised a lot more at the end of the season now. Every time we've seen him recently, bar I think there was one exception, he looks like he wants to make stuff happen, and he looks like he can make stuff happen. Do we get a Prem lift and a contract announcement at the same time? No, I would say they do that beforehand to allow people to then know they get to celebrate knowing that the lads they're looking at are going to stay. So I would imagine, I at a guess would say we'll see something here by the end of this week at the latest, maybe even a lot sooner. How would you rate Slot's season so far? Really well. Look, asking me these questions, I'm going to give you probably a more critical answer than a lot of fans, because I do think the Champions League situation was one that has made me feel a little bit underwhelmed, and certainly the cup final performance against Newcastle was nowhere near good enough. So overall I'd say an 8, and that's a good 8. You know, an 8's a good score. Winning a league title is amazing, but I'd be a liar if I said I don't feel a little bit, not underwhelmed, but saddened by the fact that, you know, we had that horrendous week before the international break. But look, any manager that comes into Liverpool Football Club, delivers a league title in his first season, well, that deserves the praise it gets. Dave said, can't just build around Mo and VVD, we need to future-proof with replacements for them. Very good point, Dave. And on Huijsen, I was going to say Housen, on Huijsen, a couple of reports today that Bayern Munich are about to put a deal together for him to offer him a 5-year contract to move there. And in all honesty, a lot of reporting over the last week or two hasn't really mentioned Liverpool's name too strongly along with Huijsen. So I wonder if Hato would be that guy. But again, hopefully we start to hear talk of this soon enough. Kirkes, by the way, looking like a deal could be done at about £40 million for Milos Kirkes, which would be about 5 million lower than some of the reports. So if Liverpool can get that done, and I think we will, that would be a good start to the summer as well. The legend, just for drama, I'd love Millwall in the Prem. Do you know, I've never really had any dealings with Millwall fans. Look, whoever gets up to the Prem, fair play to them. You know, if Millwall can make it up at some point through playoffs or whatever, fair play. Craig, I'd recommend to watch out for Newcastle and Leverkusen's last game of the season to see if Isak and Frimpong look like they're clapping the fans to say goodbye. Oh, Frimpong is going this summer. I have no doubts in my mind Frimpong's going to move this summer. Where he moves to, I haven't got a clue. But I do think you will see a move this summer. Key, said Kirkes liked Fabrizio Romano's post about VVD. Yep, I'd seen that one as well, my man. Honestly, I feel 90 to 95% we sign Milos Kirkes. That's how confident I feel in that situation. But that is based off other reporting, you know. Again, I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend I know inside information on it. I do not. But all signs very much do point to him being a Liverpool player. And it is a position we desperately need to fill. But the interesting part here will be what happens with the Costas and Robbo situation. Because I think Robbo has 1 year left on his deal. And I wonder, would there be a world where Costas gets moved on and Robbo stays for 1 year, and then we see how he gets on in that year, and obviously with Kirkes as well, because then you'd still need to look at another backup there at left back if Robbo isn't renewed after his contract has a year to go. Craig, can you get into the Laurie Shaw news, please? I'm very keen on that. I have no idea who Laurie Shaw is, so if you want me to talk about the news, let me know what story it is you're talking about. and we can go from there. But you just keep saying some journalist name, mate. Tell me what the story's about, and I'll tell you if I've got it in my notes or not. Right, let's have a look at this poll. I think it's pretty one-sided, by the way. Right, we've nearly had the 1,000 votes, so thank you to everyone that's voted. Are you happy with Mohamed Salah, 2-year deal, same money, and overwhelmingly 90% of people who voted, so 900 of the 1,000 or so people that voted said yes, they are happy with that on a 2-year deal. Oh, the lad getting hired from City. Oh yeah, sorry mate, I did know his name, David, but yeah, I do have that in my notes. So let's move on to that one next, as you've asked so nicely. Right, let's get on to it. So, Anfield sector and many others today have posted and confirmed that Laurie Shaw will take up a role with Liverpool owner Fenway Sports Group after leaving his role as Director of Football Data at City Football Group. He's currently on gardening leave at City Football Group, and when that gardening leave ends, he will come on board with Fenway Sports Group to lead their data analytics department, which of course would encompass some work with Liverpool Football Club. It's not the first time, I believe, we've brought somebody in from the setup at Manchester City in the past. I think, didn't Julian Ward, if I'm not mistaken? I think Julian Ward was there. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But yeah, that's confirmed, mate. That is happening. So not really much of a signing for the front of house or whatever, but again, an interesting addition. Right, a couple of comments to get through here. 1 second. Right, Nevelin. Hackett investigation into VVD. Surely a witch hunt, Craig, and absolutely embarrassing. So many other things ignored. Yeah, Hackett wants to investigate. What are we investigating? Are we talking about the flailing arm that hit the Everton player? Or sorry, that hit the Fulham player. Do you know, they talked about that on Ref Watch today, and I actually thought they got it right. It was an arm used, but it wasn't an elbow, and it wasn't an elbow with a clenched fist aiming towards him. So Hackett has no power to investigate anything. He's a former referee's chief. I've agreed with some of the stuff Keith Hackett has said in recent months, and I've disagreed with other stuff, and on this one I disagree. By the way, I have to say, the more I've looked at Caoimhín Kelleher's challenge, the more I think Fulham should have had a penalty yesterday, and I wouldn't have complained about it. I think we all kind of got lost up in the Ibrahim Konate losing the ball part of that, but I do think Fulham were very, very, very unlucky not to have gotten a penalty for that yesterday. The legend said, you think Spurs or United could win the Europa? Yeah, definitely. I think it's not a particularly strong Europa League, and United have the pedigree, you know, having been there and done it. But genuinely, yeah, I do think one of those two teams have a very good chance to win the Europa League. And again, for both of them, it's the only pathway into the Champions League for next season. Stevie Boy said FSG look like missing out on buying Malaga. Do they? I haven't really been keeping up to speed with that one, Stevie Boy. I know PSG's owners were potentially in there looking as well, and I know that there was a few other people looking around at it. But look, if they lose out on it, they lose out on it. I have a weird thing in life where I'm quite easy when stuff doesn't work out, because I think if it was meant to be, it was meant to be, and if it wasn't, it wasn't. And on this one, if they were meant to own Malaga, well, they'll get it. If they aren't, they won't. I want to talk about Ibrahim Konate, please, if I can, for a little while. But before I do, a bit of a good news story. And the good news story isn't this, but I do want to mention this as well. Again, if you want to come and see us, you can get your tickets to either of our live shows with the link in the description of this video by scanning the QR code on the screen or the link pinned to the top of the chat. Tickets are doing quite well. Really pleased with how they're going so far. If you want to come and see us, again, we do appreciate it. Last day of the season on the Sunday, Hot Water Comedy Club. Wednesday, midweek, 3 days later, Hot Water Comedy Club. Both all ages shows. Two very different shows we're going to be doing. But if you want to come and see us, you can get your tickets that way. Right. Always like to spread a bit of good news in the world of football. And I read a story earlier on that Football Tweet put out. Andy Ward, I believe, was the journalist involved in it. And this is just a feel-good story at a time where I think football needs it. So I'll read it out to you as it was written. A group of about 150 Southend fans hired a party boat to take them down the River Thames to watch their team Southend take on Sutton United this weekend. On the boat, they met an American tourist called Evan, who was sitting quietly by himself. So the lads asked Evan, what's up, are you alright? Because he looked lost on his own, quiet. They asked if he was okay, and it turned out that he'd gotten on the boat by accident, thinking that it was one that was doing a sightseeing tour of London. And the good news part of this is the lads instantly took him under their wing, got the beers in, and got him a ticket to the match that ended 1-1. And during the game, you could hear the away fans singing, "Evan is a shrimper, Evan is a shrimper, da 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 da." Obviously, Southend's nickname. And what a great story that is. So to those gents, the Southend fans that did that for Evan, well done. Well done and showing what football fandom is about at its best. Well done for looking out for him. And well done. Well done to those fans. Top lads. Troy King said, "Hey, nice talk again. Sad about yesterday, but you never walk alone." It was a frustrating old day yesterday, mate. Especially the way we conceded those goals. It was farcical. Right, now, I did say I wanted to speak about Ibrahima Konate because the Times have put out a story, and if the Times are putting it out, it wouldn't be what I would class as bullshit anyway. The Times are a very, very good outlet, and they're one of the newspapers that I would always have a lot of faith in when they report on anything. They say that Liverpool started contract negotiations with Ibrahima Konate before October of last year. The French international, 25 years of age currently, is said to be earning about 80 grand a week at Liverpool Football Club, but is holding out for around £200,000 per week for a new deal. And I wanted to know what people think about Konate on 200 grand a week, because I'll be honest with you, I don't think he's a 200 grand a week defender right now. He could become one, and he is on his way to it, but to go from 80 grand to 200 grand, I'm not having that. That's Virgil van Dijk money. So for me, I wouldn't be doing it, but I don't want to lose him either. So I'd be talking 150. But I want to know what you guys think. So let's get the poll up. Should Liverpool pay Konate 200k per week? Currently on 80k. Right. There we go. So I'm going to give you three options. Should Liverpool pay Konate £200,000 per week? He's currently on 80k. Yes, no, or offer him about 150k. I want to know what you guys think on that one. I think it's too much of a jump. We're talking about more than doubling a wage there. So let's wait and see what happens. I just think he isn't a £200,000 a week defender for me. Now look, I guess the argument against this or back on this will be some others will quote prices that other centre-backs or other defenders are earning elsewhere. But we aren't elsewhere. We are what we are, and we pay what we pay, and our wage bill is measured in a certain way, and the top earners on our wages are usually the ones about 180 to 200 grand. And I don't think that Ibrahima Konate is fully finished and worth 200 grand a week. If you throw in the injury concerns we had in the past, which to be fair this season have been a lot better, versus the fact that he has moments in him like we seen yesterday, I just don't think he's worth 200 grand. But I don't want to lose him either. Mark, thank you for gifting a membership, mate. Appreciate you. We do have to remember as well that Paris Saint-Germain will be hovering around here, and they'd have an interest in him. And Liverpool have let this get to a situation once again where Ibu will only have a year to go at the end of this season. He'll have 1 year left on his Liverpool contract. 40-year-old Verge said he's one of the best though. No, look, I'm not trying to say the man doesn't deserve a significant pay rise. And I'm not trying to say that he isn't a good defender. He absolutely is. And has gotten better. But Virgil is probably going to sign a deal on about that money. Or maybe a tiny bit more. And I'm not putting him in the category with Virgil van Dijk yet. He's still below Van Dijk for me. Trent was on about 180 a week. Firmino, when he left, was at about 180 per week. I haven't seen enough to justify 200 grand a week for me at the minute. I'd go 150 and then reevaluate it in 2 years again, where he'd be 27. And if he has pushed on to be a Virgil van Dijk level defender and shown that consistency over those 2 years, then we talk that 200, 220 grand. Do you think Trent has played his last game? Said Paul. Unsure, mate. Unsure. I don't know if it'll depend on when the news comes out and how it's perceived and received by the fans. But how can I say this? I wouldn't be starting him in a game between now and the end of the season. I'm not saying he shouldn't take to the pitch again, but my argument here is if he's off, fair enough, he's off. So let's give Bradley the minutes and let's get those relationships around the pitch being built up. So it would be, for me, give him a few minutes if you want to give Bradley a rest, but other than that, Trent's on the bench for the rest of the season. Simple as that. And there's a couple of reasons for this as well. On top of the fact that he's leaving probably in the summer, by the time he's back fit, which looks like the end of April, we've probably almost, if not won the league by that point. So again, it's not like we have to play him because maybe he's a bit more of a finished product than Bradley. Just play Bradley. Particularly if we pick up, let's say, 3 more wins before then. What is Gravenberch, John? I think he should get a rise. Honestly, Stephen, I don't know, mate. I don't know off the top of my head. My heart wants to say about 100, but I'm not 100% certain. Craig, if you offered EB 150, you'd say no. We knew PSG's waiting, so let's get a transfer fee. Well, we are at that point where if he doesn't agree a deal with Liverpool, and Liverpool won't budge, and he won't budge on the amount, well, yeah, that's what you're looking at this summer. It would be selling him. I don't know what it'd be worth, but 1 year left on his deal. But again, we have to say this is a problem of our club's making, because they let the situation get to this point. So if they're not going to budge and they don't want to put anywhere near 200 Gs, or he doesn't want to take a knockdown offer closer to maybe 150 or whatever, then it's either sell or he leaves for free in a year. Gravenberch on 150 a week, is he? Wow. That's a lot of dough, isn't it? 150. Now look, he's worth it. But 150 at this age, when he hits his peak at 25, 26, what are we going to be paying Gravenberch? But interesting, 150. I would put Konate probably in that bracket of about that money. So I would personally offer Konate somewhere 120 to 150 in that bracket. Colin said, I don't know of another Premier League clubs that gives away its players. Yep. Or lets them get to this point. Because Trent's about to walk out the door in the prime of his career for free, which is, by anyone's reckoning, the height of stupidity for the club to allow that to happen. Again, we've had all season to find a breakthrough with Konate, and we haven't done it. So I wonder, is there some world where the club cash in on Konate this summer? This is really setting up to be an interesting summer, because you can't let Konate get to this position where he hasn't got a deal sorted out by the time we kick off for the new season in August. And again, no Liverpool fan wants to see a player like Konate walk out the door for free in a year. It's hard enough stomaching it with Trent, and to see it happen again. Look, I was okay about the likes of the Bobby Firmino ones because they really are at the tail end of their career. Gini Wijnaldum, I think the club should have kept, but I don't know on this one. Being like, what do you think he's worth if we were to sell him with 1 year to go? 50? 45, 50 with 1 year to go? On the full market value, I'd say he's probably a £70 million centre back or an £80 million centre back. David, how are you, my friend? Said, I think Slot got his tactics wrong yesterday. He should have started the fresh players who he doesn't trust. Well, he kind of did. He started Gakpo on the left side, who hadn't played the last game. I just think Slot needs to be a little bit more risk friendly in possession. I think there's been too many times where we've had to react to going behind and then all of a sudden we kick into gear. So whatever it is that's stopping us from coming out of the blocks at the start of the game, playing to the same tempo and urgency that we did beforehand, it needs to be resolved. Because, as he said himself, we only really start playing yesterday when we'd fallen 3-1 behind and we left ourselves a lot of work to do. Now, credit to lads, they nearly pulled it out of the bag. If Harvey Elliott's shot to hit the crossbar was half an inch lower, that's 3-3 with time left to play. If Chiesa's strike on the edge of the box is a yard either side further with the keeper, that's probably 3-3 as well. So, stop waiting that long and be more proactive and get the lads out there starting quicker. I hate that we do things in the second half. It's far better, and this is so obvious, but if you win a game and you blow a team away in the first half, it gives you so many more options then to rotate in the second half and rest players, rather than trying to get through to that point, hoping you can grind a team down and then find a way to beat them when they're tired. It feels like, we're almost doing a rope-a-dope, just sitting back, taking what we can take, and then moving forward. We just need to do it quicker. We need to be out of the blocks faster. Patrick said we can't let Konate go. In my opinion, we need more depth in the defence. Oh, we do, mate. I'm not in any way trying to say we don't need more depth. Like right now, if Konate stays and everyone stays, I still would argue we need a centre back. So if he was to go, I'd sit here and say we need two. But I also don't want to go into next season without knowing what's going on with him. I don't want the power again shifting to the player side, knowing that he can then start to talk to the likes of PSG from January. So it's either get it done before the end of this season, and I do mean a decision before they break for Konate to go off for his holidays. Get a situation resolved by the end of this season. Either Konate gets an extension and he stays, or he's getting sold and you do it quickly. When do you see Liverpool officially winning the title, said Petter. We need 11 points to guarantee it, as we sit here right now. Looking through the fixtures, the game at Chelsea still stands out as one that could be the day. Obviously, it'll depend on what Arsenal do as well. Looking through their fixtures, they're relatively kind. We've got West Ham next weekend at 2 o'clock. I think, if I'm not wrong, after that, it's Brighton away. Or maybe I have that wrong in my time frame. But we need to beat West Ham and beat them comfortably next weekend. That brings us another step closer. It's just a matter of when at this point, not if. It is happening. But maybe Stamford Bridge. I don't know. Can you see Frimpong being developed as a Salah replacement? Is it Leicester away? Craig Adams, thank you. Leicester away then. I knew it was away, and I was going through the fixtures last night, and I remember it was a Brighton away, a Leicester away. So right, Leicester away, that should be a win, lads. Come on. That should be a win. I think, is that a 4:30 Sunday game as well? I think it's a 4:30. Next weekend's 2 o'clock against West Ham. I'm fairly certain the following week, Sunday, is a 4:30 kickoff. So look, let's be honest. We should be taking 6 points from the next 2 games, and anything less than that won't be good enough. So if we take those 6 points, depending on how Arsenal get on, then the picture becomes a little bit clearer. Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. I can't wait for it to happen. I would love for Endo to get a start this season, said F1 David. Not only depth at the back, it's hard to get new people and bed them in defence. Players take time to gel and play better together. Right, 1 second. Ooh, the interesting poll here. Still, vote away in it, by the way. If you haven't, please do take part. The question in the poll so far now is, should Liverpool pay Ibrahima Konate £200,000 per week? He's currently on about 80. Yes, no, or offer him less, about 150k. After that, I want to move on for a conversation around Jarell Quansah. Because I have my doubts whether Arna really rates Jarell or not. And I think he'd be open to an offer for Quansah this summer. I don't know if the club would, but something just strikes me that he doesn't trust Quansah, or hasn't been fully convinced by him yet. So, let's talk Matheus Cunha for a moment. Transfer sector, crediting Alex Crook, said Manchester United are interested in signing Matheus Cunha. It is understood Cunha's agent will fly to England soon for face-to-face talks with potential suitors and has already made some initial contact with Manchester United. So, United have also been targeting Liam Delap. And we know at the moment United don't have all that much money. So how are they going to come up with 62.5 million for Cunha's release clause? I don't see how United have that money. You know, they're having to basically cut the crust off the sandwiches at the minute. I don't know how they come up with 62.5 million quid to trigger Matheus Cunha's release clause. And also, if I'm Cunha, that's not a club I'm going to, because that's going to end up in tears. United aren't going in the right direction. I don't even think he's the right type of striker for the way that Amarim wants to play. I think Liam Delap will be far more suited to it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on that one. Do you think we see Cunha at Old Trafford, and do you think it will be a good fit? Craig Adams said, I see Palace getting something at Arsenal. The Brentford Arsenal game will be an interesting one as well. Atletico Madrid interested in Anthony, apparently. Let's wait and see. I know Betis said they want to try and do everything they can to keep him, but you know, it's a lot of money for a club like Betis. Will I be doing a stream tomorrow? What day is tomorrow? Tuesday. Yes, we are going to do a stream tomorrow. We're not going to do it on Wednesday. I know a lot of people will be watching Arsenal Madrid tomorrow, but I will be doing a late night agenda stream. And then I'm going to take the Wednesday off, and I'm going to watch some Champions League myself that night. So yeah, we will have a stream tomorrow. I see Brentford getting something on Saturday against Arsenal. Well, Arsenal played before us for at least the next couple of weeks that I can remember anyway. A little bit about Gittins, by the way, in a moment or two. Just want to keep checking in on this poll. Right, folks, we need about 80 more votes to get up to 1,000, so please do let me know your thoughts. Oh, little bit of an update in the Craig personal life situation. My wife went down today, had a bit of a meeting around the house situation, and we're hoping we can find some common ground and move forward and still buy the house. So I'll keep you posted over the next few weeks. But she was down today for a meeting. Some of our local politicians are helping out as well, and we're hopeful that we can find some common ground and still buy this house, which is what we've been working for, well, for 8 years pretty much. So I just thought I'd give you what is, I hope, a positive update on it. Palace might get something at Liverpool. Look, Palace are a good side on the glass now, having a very good season. They started off a bit wobbly, but they've come on strong as the season's gone on. So confused on Quansah. He came on and played great against PSG, then never seen again. It's been a weird one, right? Because all the way from the very start of the season, it looked like his card was marked in that Ipswich Town game where he was replaced at half-time. But he was the starting centre-back on the first day of the season ahead of Konate. So I'm wondering, was it something because Konate wasn't ready, or was the plan for him to become the starting centre-back? But either way, his use has been few and far between since then. Sometimes you've seen him come on at right-back, of course. But I don't know, I'm not convinced that the manager's convinced by him, personally. What about Eze? I just think when you're buying somebody like Eze from a club like Palace, you're just going to overpay again. You know, Premier League to Premier League deals just end up being really, really, really expensive a lot of the time. Especially when he's one of the star players in the team. I say that knowing with Kirkes, but they've already replaced their left back there. They've got your man Julio Soler in from Lanos, so let's see. And also Mark Gay is one to keep an eye on this summer as well. Daryl said, "Hey Craig, hope you're well. Not been on for a while. Not being good at the moment. Still driving or grieving hard and empty at the minute." Well, we're always here, Daryl. And look, there's no rules to grieving, mate. There's no one size fits all solution to it. But if you do feel like to drop in and have a chat with us or talk shit with us about anything, we are here, Daryl. Obviously, you know that, my man. And we do wish you nothing but the best, bro. If they want Doak, we're looking to sell him part of the deal. Yeah, look, I'd love to use Ben Doak as a make-weight in a deal for Jarrod Branthwaite. That would be incredible. Craig, did you see the Arsenal fan predicting 3-0 versus Madrid at the Emirates? They're delusional. Their delusion knows no bounds. Look, honestly, I don't think it's impossible that Arsenal beat Real Madrid in that game tomorrow at the Emirates. I think I agree with Paul Merson, and I'm going to have to go and have a wash after this just for saying that, but they need minimum 2-goal lead to take to the Bernabeu for me. I just don't I don't see them progressing through over two legs, but I do think it's very possible they can beat Real Madrid tomorrow at the Emirates. A couple of people asking about Frimpong as well. Muckrab, calm down in the comments, mate, to somebody. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. I gather that's probably about Frimpong. And by the way, Frimpong has been linked with Liverpool. I don't think he's the right fit for us, but there has been plenty of conversation linking us with a move for him. Right, I think we can end this one. Yeah, we've had the 1,000 votes. So we asked, should Liverpool pay Ibrahim Konate £200,000 per week? And with the most clicked answer with 47% was off from about 150. No was next on the list with 28%, and yes, 24%. So it seems like the majority of people don't feel he's worth £200,000 a week. 150, a lot of people feel much more comfortable on that one, and obviously you would add in the yes to the 46% on the 150k as well. So most people want him to stay, but on a figure less than the quoted £200,000 a week. Jack O'Connell, how are you, bro? Said, Craig, just want to say I hope you're enjoying all the rival fans' tears because we're winning. I'm enjoying the revisionism. I'm enjoying the jumping through mental hoops to make themselves feel better. Again, I keep saying this, Jack, and I'll say it all season. If Arsenal were doing what we're doing now, there wouldn't be any talk of it being a terrible Premier League season. It would just be a talk of how amazing Arsenal are, how Arteta should be knighted, even though I don't think can he be knighted? I don't know. I think maybe probably can be offered something along those lines. But yeah, they'd be talking about Arteta being a god if they were doing what we're doing now. But when Arne Slot comes in the first season and does it, terrible season and all that, even though it's absolutely possible for us to hit the 90 plus point mark. They're full of it, quite simply, Jack, and leave them to it. I was reading a post, this is Anfield, and they were talking about Diaz agent talks, potential move to Al Nassr. Yep, I've got that news for you here, mate. 1 second. So, not just Al Nassr, but Fabrizio Romano said that Al Nassr and other Saudi clubs are interested in Luis Diaz. I think he gets sold if the right offer comes in and if he's willing to do it. Because it doesn't look like Liverpool want to extend them. There's been lots of talk that those conversations have kind of dried up. He's 28, I think now, Luis Diaz, or close to 28. So if he gets sold in the summer, fair enough. But I want that money reinvested in another attacking, bright, wide player. And I want it reinvested well. But honestly, I'd rather we sold Jota. Hand on heart, I would. I'd rather we sold Diogo Jota than Luis Diaz. I think we need to move on both the centre forwards, because I don't think it's just not doing the job, and I want new centre forward options. Thoughts on Troy Deeney's opinion on VAR killing the enjoyment of the game? I'm absolutely in the VAR out camp at this point, mate. Absolutely. I was in the VAR in camp. I won't lie. Before I came in, I was all for VAR. But, I could live with semi-automated offside technology, goal line technology, and I'd like to see that extended to the perimeter of the pitch all the way around. But yeah, I agree. It's bullshit now. And especially when you're getting 4 or 5 minute VAR checks where they're looking for the absolute minute details to try and find a way to rule out goals. Our sport is difficult enough. In regards to other sports, it's a relatively low-scoring sport. So we don't need to find ways to make it even more low-scoring and to piss people off more. And that's all I think VAR has done, is annoy people more. And if anything, it's put even more of an emphasis on people's dislike of certain officials and their treatment of clubs. So I hate it. And I'd be definitely in the bye-bye VAR camp. If I had a vote on this, I'd get rid of it tomorrow. I can live with a lino making a mistake. Or I can live with a referee not seeing something. But I find it much harder to swallow when they've looked at something for a while and not... Like the penalty incident, as an example. The Everton situation. I'll never understand things like that. How you can look at that and not think it's a red card. The Tarkowski challenge, let's say. I know that, sorry, that wasn't a penalty incident. That was a different one I was thinking. But the Tarkowski challenge on Maka, that's a red. And if VAR aren't doing that, then honestly, fuck the whole system. Because when it suits them, they find a way of saying some imaginary threshold wasn't met to upgrade it. And it's giving them a get out of jail free card. And I've had enough of it. So I'm in the out camp, definitely. Newcastle may get Champions League football, said Corbyn. Can't see us getting Isak. They're in the box seat to get Champions League football. I think they have a couple of games in hand on at least City anyway, who are 5th, I think. And I think they will. Like, I agree with you. I think they get Champions League football, and then I think it just clarifies the Isak situation even more. George said, Craig, random, when do you think the contract news? I think you said at the end of the week. I said I wouldn't be surprised to hear it this week or at the end of the week. But honestly, mate, your guess is as good as mine on exactly when. Don't know. I'd be a liar if I gave you a day. Anfield Agenda and a pizza, life not too shabby right now. Well in. That's a winning statement, Adrian. Well in. What was the thing I wanted to ask you on? Oh, okay, yeah. 1 sec. So I want to just ask you about Kwanzaa and Slot. I want to know what you guys think. So, do you think Slot trusts Kwanzaa? Yes or no? There can't really be an unsure option here, just because it is just an opinion. So, let me know what you think. Do you think Arne Slot trusts Jarell Kwanzaa? Newcastle the ones who are 5th, City dropped to 6th. This was before the game tonight, Mark. Sorry. This was when I was looking at it last night. Newcastle had 2 games in hand. Obviously now that they're played and they're winning against Leicester, yeah, they will push up. If you're taking Wednesday off, that's when the contracts will get announced. I'm not taking Wednesday off all work, just the stream that night. But yeah, you're right. Watch it happen then. Petter said, do you see us getting top 5? Sorry, I'm trying to just wait for the league table so I can have a quick refresh mentally. You're in 5th now, or 4th now, Petter, right? So it's Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest, Chelsea, Newcastle, City, if my memory's right. Yes, I think you get there. But it is a very interesting race for those extra spots. I think the top 3 are done and dusted, but the 2 remaining spots, you can look at Villa, you can look at Chelsea, Newcastle, and I'm sure there's probably 1 or 2 more clubs there who are... Let me just have a proper look at the league table. Let me have a look, 1 second. Right, so Villa are 2 points off 5th spot. Then Brighton are 3 points off 5th spot. I think you can probably go from Brighton all the way up to Chelsea. Fulham sneaking up there as well now. Whoo-wee. Realistically, I think Aston Villa, Man City, Newcastle, Chelsea will battle for those 2 spots. And I think it's going to be interesting. You never rule out Aston Villa making a late push either. It's probably the most interesting of all the situations to be resolved in the Premier League now, the European spots. Craig, if Slot doesn't trust Elliott, Chiesa, Kwanzaa, should we not just tell them I'd rather keep them, but if Slot doesn't sell them? Yeah, sell them. If the manager doesn't trust the player and the manager's not going anywhere, then sell. I think that's common sense. There's no point in us looking at it getting worked up at Elliott not getting minutes, Chiesa not getting minutes. If the manager makes it clear that he's not seeing them as part of his plans, then move them on. Or they stay and want to fight for their place. Look, Chiesa's one is baffling. Like, at least with Elliott we can go, right, well, he was at the club when Arne came in and maybe Arne just hasn't liked what he's seen. Fair enough. But the Chiesa one happened when Arne was manager. And that just feels so weird that the manager had a player brought in whom he hasn't liked the look of all season. It just feels very, very strange. And it's the most questionable of all those decisions. Who made that call? And what's going to happen in the summer? It's annoying when we can see the player clearly working. Yeah, I agree. I think Chiesa has shown us more than enough to justify a starting position, or at least half an hour off the bench. Ooh, very interesting on this Kwanzaa vote, by the way. Thank you to everyone that is voting. I really am interested to see if I've just invented a situation in my mind, or if other people maybe see it similarly. Eddie, how are you, you magnificent specimen? How are you, bro? Has Mo agreed the new deal? Some reports say yes, but every report says when and not if. So, for instance, I'll give you the variations on this one, Eddie. David Ornstein said talks have been positive with Mo and Virgil. Liverpool have been confident throughout, And like I said with Van Dijk, for Virgil or for Mo, it's more a case of when rather than if they'll sign. But others have gone a little bit further. Sashi Cavalieri said Mohamed Salah now close to a contract extension. Liverpool legend has reached an agreement in principle for 2 more years, more to follow. So yeah, man, it's looking like both of them are getting done. And from other information I've seen about the Mohamed Salah situation, it'll be on the same money or a tiny bit less, but not much. So let's say somewhere between 3 and 350 grand a week basic. And I think we get that sewn up soon, Eddie. So yeah, fingers crossed, mate, we get that confirmation. I think the FA Cup game made Arna angry at Chiesa and Elliott. That's really unfair though, if that's the case, because it's not like they were putting the team with the regulars around them. That was a very disjointed team that was put out to play Plymouth. And look, they still should be beating Plymouth, don't get me wrong. But if you're, and I don't know that he is doing this, but if you're judging them off that, I think that's really unfair. Craig, you said you eat once a day for a 45-minute period. I'm really intrigued to hear what you eat and what time of the day it is. Well, what I eat varies, of course, mate, but time of the day is usually somewhere between 11:30 at night or, you know, I'll have the 45-minute period either 11:30 or 1:30 at night. So sometime in that 2-hour period, I'll have my 45-minute period of eating. But yeah, it's always after 11:30 and before 1:30. And then I drink coffee and water for the rest of the day. 11:30 at night, I should say, into 1:30 in the morning. David Newell said, I think Kwanzaa needs a loan at a club that will play him week after week. If Leeds or Burnley come up, maybe one of them would be ideal. The problem with that would be that would then force us into the market to have to bring in another centre-back. And then you're at the point of thinking, well, what type of centre-back do I bring in? Do I bring in a centre-back that I want to be challenging for a first-team spot? Or do I bring in somebody who's going to be third or fourth choice? It leaves a lot of unanswered questions. And I think Arne Slot should have seen enough of him this season to know if he has a player on his hands or not. So I don't like the idea of a loan in that situation, because he's a player that's already been thought of as a first-team player and is in first-team squads and is one of the first-team options at centre-back. So yeah, for me, that would be a no on the loan. I just don't think it makes sense. Especially when you've got clubs like Newcastle that would already pay a significant fee for him. Philip said, totally agree with that, Craig. A very inexperienced team and a shocking pitch. Very hard to judge Chiesa and Elliott on that game. But Slot still trusts Diaz and Jota after the FA Cup. I'm telling you, he made his mind up about players months ago. Look, I agree. Like, with Chiesa, if the cup final didn't make you think, okay, yeah, there's something about this guy, and again, if his little cameo off the bench against Fulham didn't make you think that this guy's a fighter that wants to be here, I think you're right. His mind may have been made up previously. But that's worrying, because managers should be willing to change their minds if that's the case. And to be fair, it looks like Arne did that to an extent with Endo. David said, just think he's not getting enough playing time to improve and for us to actually get to see what he can do. These are the very difficult decisions that Premier League managers have to make, mate. And I don't think we have the luxury of loaning Kwanzaa out for a year. It doesn't add up, because then we've got Gomez, Virgil, Konate, end of conversation for centre-backs. Yes, you can throw Endo in there, but let's be honest, Endo isn't really somebody we brought in to be a centre-back. So I want us to have 4 or 5 options at centre-back. 4 senior ones and 1 young one is fine, like Nallo as an example. Do you play FPL? Yeah, just not very well. Who'll win the Europa League? I've got a feeling United will grind it out. If we're agreeing that maybe one of the Prem clubs will win it, I think it'll be United over Spurs anyway. I think that pedigree United have will see them grind it out. It's a very weak competition though, if you look at the teams in it this year. So yeah, I don't know. I just get the feeling United might just eke their way to winning this. But the final's in Bilbao as well, right? If I'm not mistaken. Maybe if we wrap up the league title, we'll see more of Chiesa and Elliott to the end of the season. You would imagine the shop window then gets opened, where you start to put players like that in it. But it's interesting to see what happens with it. Also, has anybody else been a little bit, not confused, but concerned by Alisson again not clearing concussion protocol ahead of the Fulham game? That feels concerning. I hope he's alright. I hope there's nothing that's going to carry on there, or maybe I'm hoping the Fulham game just came too soon, but certainly I thought he would have been back for that game. Will you win the Conference League? Yes, of course, Petter. I mean, you're by far and away the best team in it, and yeah, you'll win it. You'll win it comfortably. Philip, enjoy. Safe travels, mate. You said you're off the airport in the morning. Safe travels. What's this? Oh, Gittins. Let's talk Gittins, because I did promise you I was going to speak about Gittins here. So, in a piece for Gimme Sport, Fabrizio Romano confirmed Liverpool have been scouting Gittins post Anfield sector. Chelsea are also known to be big admirers. Thoughts? Apparently Gittins has informed Dortmund that he wants to leave the club in the summer. Bayern, no Premier League clubs are interested, and were initially hoping for about €100 million, but the price will now be closer to 70 or 80 million euro. So if it's 70 million euro, that's about £55 million, something like that, for Gittins. Thoughts? Do you think he's worth a punt at that money? How is it, by the way, that fucking Chelsea are in for everybody? Everybody, like. Anybody that I've seen linked, Chelsea's name's mentioned in as well. Like, do they just have never-ending ability to spend money? Oh, did you see the Villa shenanigans? So apparently Aston Villa are now thinking of selling their women's team to ease their PSR concerns. Chelsea already pulled this stroke, sold the women's team again to another one of Bowley's companies, I believe. But I find this very disconcerting. We're all supposed to be pushing the women's game. You know, Sky have started to show more and more of the WSL. Football clubs have been promoting the women's game a lot more. And then at the very first sign of any kind of PSR headaches, Villa and Chelsea's boards both think, let's flog the women's team. That sounds very undermining of the women's game to me. And also it sounds very iffy, because have many women's clubs traded hands? Have many people bought and sold women's football clubs? Is there any type of metric for the valuation and what is reasonable? Or can we just play makey-uppy numbers here? It's a weird one for me, because I don't remember hearing anywhere that a women's club was sold to an investment firm or anything like that. So how do you, I guess, put down some type of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Precedent for a fee? How do you value it? I've got no idea. Like, if Liverpool said they were selling Liverpool Women's Club tomorrow for 1 million or 100 million or 200 million, how do we know whether that's good, bad or indifferent? How are the people who calculate PSR and all supposed to know? These just look like ways of finding more loopholes to get around these situations. And you can't both want to grow the women's game, support the women's game, and then let the women's club be the first thing that you sell as soon as you need to free up more cash for the men's team, which is what this would be. Did you see Grealish was slapped by a fan after the Manchester derby? I did, and I'd seen that somebody was charged with assault for it as well. Robbo looked lost against Fulham, said Philip. That crossfield ball, mate, oh God. It looked even worse when I watched the back on Match of the Day 2 last night. It wasn't even in the right area for the ball he was looking for. Like, it was so badly shanked and under hit. And it was the wrong ball as well that he was playing. Did you see the UK Pool Championship has been played in Wigan and has been played by two men? I don't know what to go with that, Dave. You mean just two people in it, or... do you think that PSG having a better squad gave them the advantage, eventually got them through against Liverpool? Because I do. Yes, I do. They looked to their bench better in those two games and brought on players like Dewey and a few others that caused us problems. Whereas our substitutes seemed to weaken us when we made them in the games. So definitely I think the youthfulness, the energy levels of that PSG team, and of course a well-coached team from Luis Enrique, certainly gave them an edge. Because if you look through it, I don't think they've got more firepower than us. But definitely felt like when they brought their players off the bench, they were getting in and making a difference. And they looked hungrier as well, as Jeremy has said. Right. Again, keep voting away on the Kwanzaa one because I do need as big a sample size as possible. The question is, do you think Arne Slot trusts Jarell Kwanzaa? What else we got? Oh, two trans men. Oh yeah, I'm not touching that subject, David. Sorry, not going near that. Nope. That's a whole lot of. There's no benefit to me talking about that, mate. Sorry. I'm not qualified either. You know. Leave others to discuss and talk about that, mate. I'll just step to the side and allow others to have that conversation. It's not one for me. As a refresher, what positions are we looking to bolster this summer? Left back, centre forward, probably a wide forward, and right back. They're the ones off the top of my head. Now you can make an argument about midfield as well, but they're the ones I'm thinking about. And again, David Ornstein comments saying it's a matter of when rather than if Van Dijk signs a contract extension, for those coming in a little bit late. Craig, if we draw it to West Ham, will you be worried? No. I won't be worried till Arsenal within 3 points of us. If that happens, then I'll start to be concerned. But for now, no, I won't. Because I refuse to believe Arsenal are going to win all their last 7 games as well. Now look, our last 4 or 5 games, or at least 4 of the last 5, are horrendously difficult. But no, I don't think we don't get it done. And I don't like the idea of fans talking this into a nervous finish. Anfield needs to be confident, loud, and needs to get behind the team. The team need to go out and play with swagger and confidence. We can't be allowing this nervousness to creep in. We can't be allowing outside noise to get in our heads. So no, go and trounce West Ham. You've a week to prepare. It's at home. You need to put right the result that you lost against Fulham. The crowd are there with you. Get it done. Get the win. And play with swagger. And show that there ain't going to be wobbles. It's no disgrace losing to Fulham. Fulham are a good team. I said this in the build-up all week. But West Ham aren't great. And we're at home. So go beat them. Go do it well. Be prepared well. Have a plan A, B and C. And start the bloody game quickly. Not with this patient, slow, methodical bullshit. Get stuck in 100 miles an hour and beat them. And the fans need to play a part in this. We can't have that nervous energy, the biting of nails, the silence inside Anfield. It needs to be loud, it needs to be supportive, and it needs to be constant. Douglas, how are you, mate? Said, we've scored 10 goals versus West Ham this season. Exactly, mate. We should be going out there and putting them to the sword. LFC transfer room saying Gittins has requested to leave Dortmund at the end of the season and wants to come back to England. His initial transfer fee has been brought down due to the performances in the second half of the season. Interesting. On Gittins, again, what are you guys thinking about him? Would you take a punt for the right money? Pala reckons, I reckon you beat West Ham 2-0, goal early. I reckon we'll beat them like 4-1. Something like that, Petter. I think there's going to be goals in this game. Because I think Mo's going to want to go out there and put the ball in the back of the net and put it right. I think Virgil's going to want to have a point to prove. Look, I think we beat them well. I do. 3-4-1, something like that. Heck said Fulham have been a bit of a bogey team for us in recent memory. A lot of the games were either draws or 1-goal wins, either side. So, yeah. And look, Fulham are a good side. You know, Marco Silva's team deserve the credit. They're in the hunt for a Champions League place right now. Certainly in the hunt for the European spots. They're no fools. They're a decent team. And yes, we certainly helped them out yesterday. But again, let's look at the second half. When we got back to ourselves, we absolutely controlled the game in the second half, but we left ourselves too much to do. So we need to start the game with that same level of intensity, purpose and confidence, and then put West Ham to the sword. Again, 1 game a week for the Reds now. Plenty of time to prepare, plenty of time to rest. No excuses. Get it done. Beat them, then go and beat Leicester City. Then you need 5 more points maximum to win the league. And Arsenal will drop more points, I think, and that will drop a little bit more. We've beaten West Ham twice this season, 5-1 in the Cup and 5-0 away in the league, said Ian Greenstreet. Yeah, they're usually good opponents for us, West Ham. We usually do quite well over the years against them. What have we got? Does anyone know how many matches we've scored? 3 this season? Oh, not offhand, mate, no. So again, want to go back to a news story that David asked me, I think it was, to confirm earlier on or discuss. Laurie Shaw will take up a role with Liverpool owners Fenway Sports Group after leaving his role as Director of Football Data at the City Football Group. So quite where he fits into the FSG setup, how much influence really he'd have towards Liverpool, I'm not sure. Pedro Marquez was brought in, I think, from Benfica over the summer. So, you know, the club seem to be very happy about this coup. He's currently on gardening leave, I believe, from the City Football Group, but was confirmed today that he will be taking up a role with FSG in some capacity as a leading football data researcher, scientist, whatever you want to call them, which surely is good news for the club. Well, it's not bad news anyway. Jason, Irish Red, said, we looked so casual yesterday, especially in defence. We could always see mistakes coming. We did, mate, we did. Look, we opened the game with an incredible goal from Maka and then had an 18-minute period where our heads went. Just absolutely went. And 3 of those players, all very experienced, had a mare for different reasons. Konate gave away possession and we probably should have conceded a penalty after that. Then Konate lost the flight of the ball and distracted Jones when the ball bounced off Jones, and again they scored from it. Robertson's crossfield pass then ended up with him misjudging a header, then ended up with him getting a deflection on the goal. Again, an absolute mess. And then Virgil with Muniz for the last one was a piss take. Yes, he was leaned into when he was jumping, but tough. Verge does that to people all the time. After that, it was great skill from the Fulham player. And again, Kelleher probably should have done better with his part in it. But 3 defensive, massive mistakes there yesterday. And look, Konate showed signs when that game started that his head wasn't in the right place. Slicing clearances. I still don't know what he was trying to do. The one where he lost possession inside his own penalty area. Just put your foot through it. Just boot it. Clear it. No trying to do Cruyff turns. It was just a risk that was not needed. Ash, LFC Forever said, I don't want to hear any excuses this summer. Hughes would have had 10-12 months to prepare for this. Going to be 5 plus exits, so expect 5 plus new signings too. Agreed. You know, if I did out a list, Ash, of players I'd move on, I'd probably leave the club way too much work to do. But I'm going to give you guys that list now of who I would sell. So the goalkeeping situation, look, the common sense answer here is to sell Kelleher. Because he doesn't want to extend to be number 2. He's got 1 year to go. And that is what it is. You know, would we keep him differently? Yes, probably. But so Kelleher will be sold. We won't be selling anyone at right back because Trent looks like he's probably walking out the door. Centre back, I think we sell at least one from Gomez, Kwanzaa, and of course we see what happens then with Konate and that contract situation. So a centre back will go. I'd sell Kwanzaa personally. I'd give Ibu a contract, tie him down. I'd sell Kwanzaa. I'd sell Costas. The manager wants to sell Elliott. I wouldn't sell Endo if he's willing to stay. I'd keep him about. Nobody else in midfield there for me that I'd be looking to move on. Off the top of my head, Tyler Morton. Yeah, Tyler Morton I'd move on. I'd move him on because I don't think he's ever really going to make the breakthrough properly at Liverpool. So I'd move Tyler on. Excuse me, I've got the hiccups. I'd move Darwin on. I'd sell Jota. I'd personally like Diaz to stay. So yeah, I'd probably given you 6-7 players there I'd sell. And then bringing in, I want 2 centre backs if we sell one. A left back, a right back, centre forward and a backup forward. So I'm already into 6 or 7 coming in there before we even start discussing midfielders or wingers. It's a big overhaul. But it's a problem of their own making. And they have to get it right. You know, they've had long enough, as people have rightly said in the chat. We've not extended a contract. We've not signed anybody of note other than Mamardashvili and of course Chiesa, who isn't getting a look in. So they should have had more than enough time now to sit down and plan with the manager. And we've always been told, even by Arne Slot, that, you know, they're always been in communication. They're always talking about the summer. We've heard there's plans A, B and C and plans for every eventuality. So let's go out and execute on those plans and get the lads in. And let's look forward to, as Jeremy said, Liverpool 3.0. David says Kelleher go to Chelsea. In my opinion, they'll pay the most. I think it would be a good fit for them. He's better than Sanchez. Kepa is going to obviously make that full-time move to Bournemouth. So yeah, I agree. Again, just a little quick confirmation here from Chris Wheeler that Liverpool are among the clubs chasing Liam Delap. Literally just got that through there now. So, but look, I think I speak for everybody when I say there isn't a Liverpool fan who would feel confident if Núñez was sold, Delap was brought in and that was the striking option. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think I'd speak for most people when I would say that would be a concerning one, because it's still a gamble on whether Delap will take off and hit the numbers necessary. I have no problem with us bringing in Delap. I just think it would need to be part of an attacking rebuild that has a couple of more additions brought in alongside. Nearly up to the 1,000 votes now on the Kwanzaa one. We need about 70, 69 more. Ooh, that's what he said. So do keep voting. We get that 1,000 votes, we'll end that poll. But do let me know your thoughts on Liam Delap. Like, if we sold Darwin and bought Liam Delap and that was the only centre forward change, so Jota stays, maybe Dan's comes in, but it's just Liam Delap for Darwin Núñez, well, probably we'd make money on that, which would, I'm sure, infuriate a lot of us, because again, we'd be showing cheapness. But would you be happy with that if Delap was the guy? Because, you know, United, he's their number one target according to reports, so they're seeing something that they think he's good enough to lead the line. But then again, we're at a different level at the moment to United, so I wouldn't be saying what's good enough for them is necessarily what's good enough for us. It's really time to sell Núñez to Jason Irish Red, even though we won't get a fraction of what we paid for him. I think we'll get between 50 and 60 for Núñez at a guess. Ash said, I'm in agreement with you, Craig. I can see Diaz going 2 years left on his contract. He's 28, so unless he gets a new deal, I can see him leaving, with Romano saying Saudi want him in the summer. Look, Liverpool are in a decent position with Diaz. Like, let's say Liverpool don't renew and let him go in 2 years at 30 years of age, having been on 70 odd grand a week. I would certainly be able to stomach that a lot more if he walked out in 2 years, having got the time we have out of him for a reasonable wage, even if we don't get a transfer fee at the end of it. That would be okay because of the wages in my mind, and because we'd still keep a player who we all like around for 2 more years. But I do agree as well that it looks like Saudi are going to be making a play from this summer. I don't know where his head's at about the idea of a Saudi move. JMU said, is Delap good enough for us? I'm not so sure. I don't think anybody can say with absolute confidence yes or no. I would take the punt at 40 million, but not put all the eggs in that basket. I do think I'd need somebody else in there, because I can see why people like Delap. I can see why clubs are looking at him. And at the 40 million as well for the release clause, you know, it is worth a punt. But we need a bona fide goal scorer on top of taking a punt as well. We took the punt with Darwin and it didn't work. Sam Lewis said, Craig, I'm nervous of FSG cheaping out. We cannot make the same number 9 mistake again. We need a world-class striker. So let's play a game for a minute then. Let's just say for a second that we agree Isak isn't available and Atletico Madrid simply won't sell Julian Alvarez. So in that scenario, who's the guy? Sincerely, who is the guy? If you're the director of football at Liverpool right now, and we can take it for granted that Isak isn't for sale and neither is Alvarez. Well, who do we go out into world football, even with money, even if we had money burning a hole in our pocket, who do you go out and sign? Because it's not like there is a whole host of guaranteed superstar strikers out there. You've got a Harry Kane at 50 million at the tail end of his career. You've got an Ekitike who is still a punt, whatever way you look at it, and was only 18 million quid a year and a half ago. And now all of a sudden they're talking 65. You've got Gyökeres, who hasn't proven himself in a top league. You've got Šeško, who again is the unfinished product, but with huge potential. I just look around the world and I'm not seeing loads and loads of top quality number 9s banging in 30-40 a season. And then, of course, you've got Cunha as well, who, again, hasn't been prolific. Mark said, Delap is a striker who'll need a partner up front with him. I think Delap would work really well with a second player off him, as you've mentioned. Somebody with a bit of a creative spark. Like, in a weird world, I could see Diogo Jota working well off Delap, because of Jota's cleverness of movement and Delap's aerial prowess, and I could see them two, for instance, working sort of well together. But again, I say that, and then the next sentence they'll say is, but Diogo Jota won't last the entire season without being injured. What's this? So Delap's right up there with goal conversion rates as well. Only Haaland and Isak have a better conversion rate this season in the Premier League. Delap's on 20% according to Bents, and 29% for Isak, 21% for Haaland. Jason Irish Red said, to be honest, happy to try Chiesa at number 9 starting this season. Manny said, Cunha is who I like. We need 2 players for every position, in my opinion. We do, Paul? Yeah, absolutely. So if Jota stays, then I think we get 1 more forward. If Jota goes, then yeah, we need 2. I think we need a striker who's dominant in the air with the amount of crosses we put into the box, said Flip. Osimhen and Gyökeres are the only guys who seem to guarantee goals, but not sure they'd suit us, said Ash Forever. You've got potential players of Sesko, Delap, Hugo. Cunha is more of a Bobby type, won't get us 20 plus. Exactly. That's kind of been my point as well here, mate, with what you've said. Michael Manning, thank you, mate, for being a member with us for 20 months. Do you prefer a big squad or a quality squad? Why does it have to be mutually exclusive? Why can't it be both? So I would prefer 18 to 20 players that the manager really trusts. So whatever you classify that as a big or a small squad. Because I think we've got loads of youngsters worth giving some breakthroughs to. So you've got young Rio, of course. Trey Neone, we all rate. Jaden Dans, we all rate. Let's see what happens with Kumas. Then you've got the likes of McConnell. So there are great young options that if you had those 18 bona fide players the manager 100% trusts, sprinkle in some of these young lads at stages as well and let them get their breakthrough. Which again kind of leads me back to my point about winning games early rather than winning late. You go, let's say we play West Ham and we're 3-0 up with 60 minutes on the clock. Well, then you can go to your bench and go, Rio, on you go, fella. Let's see what you can do. Trey, on you go, fella. See what you can do. James McConnell, get on there, fella. See what you can do. It makes it easier for the manager to start to blood through the youngsters in a team that's confident and in an environment where they're not having to rescue a situation. Sam said, I believe there's a picture of an 8-year-old Isak wearing a Liverpool shirt. I think it does exist. There's definitely one of De Bruyne, by the way, in a Liverpool shirt as well. If you keep Dans, are you worried about his injury record? Absolutely. He needs a full season somewhere, Jaden Dans. So for me, next season, Jaden Dans should be loaned out. Loaned out somewhere, either very high championship level or Premier League level. But I think Jaden Dans, more than having to prove his quality, needs to prove that robustness that you're speaking about. Similar situation to what we did with Stefan Bajcetic. I think we all agree Stefan Bajcetic is a player. And, you know, we're not doubting his quality, but we needed to see that he could have the season without his body breaking down like it did. And I think he can apply the same to Dans. Do you feel confident bringing Bajcetic back? Yeah, I do. I've always really had faith in Stefan Bajcetic because he just looks like a classy player and carries himself well and doesn't seem overawed or intimidated out there on the pitch. Trey Neone is somebody of another tremendous amount of belief in, but I do think physically his body needs to strengthen up a little bit. He still looks very, very childish and young. And when you're in midfield like that, I think you do need a bit more physicality. Maybe if you're a young winger like Rio or something, you don't have to have the same kind of build and frame. Right, let's see if we've got the votes, the poll. Right, we have. We're almost at 1,100 actually. So, I asked you guys, do you think that Arne Slot trusts Jarell Quansah? And with pretty much 1,100 votes, 76% of everybody said No, they don't think that the manager trusts Kwanzaa. So thank you for everyone that voted. So if you don't think the manager trusts him, do we think he gets sold this summer? Because the logical thing is, if we think the manager doesn't trust them, then how does he gain the trust? Well, you either get more minutes and prove yourself, or you get sold. And Newcastle would be a willing buyer. So do we see Kwanzaa getting sold this summer? Patrick Samara said, we need to be too deep at every position, but Slot has to trust them and rotate. We can't do another season with the amount of minutes they're getting in the legs. I agree. This is the summer onwards where Slot's excuses, if you want to call it that, start to become more limited, because he gets to build his team now. And he's had a chance to assess everybody over the course of a season. And now it's about putting in place the players and the project that he wants to succeed with. Trent Cone Doherty, again, I don't think he's at the level yet, Jason, so you might see a loan there for him. Obviously keeping a close eye on that situation as he came in from Derry City. What about the Kochu guy from Benfica? That's always kind of been poo-pooed, and I think Arne Slot spoke to Kochu's dad, if I remember correctly, and said that, look, he won't be making that move to Liverpool, especially at the valuation there of about €100 million. I just don't see that one happening. Gary Evans, how are you, Gary? Said, unfortunately, the issue with Bajcetic is that he's not proven, hasn't even helped a regular starting place in his loan clubs. Well, look, he's proven to me when I seen him at the end of the season before last, and yeah, you're right, he's gone out this season, had a mixed bag at Las Palmas, and then before that on loan as well, so at Salzburg, and that was just a whole messy situation with the way Linders went in there and didn't work out. But I don't know, man, I do trust him personally. I think there's a player in there, and I wouldn't have no issues if he was the guy to back up Gravenberch, if the manager trusted him. But I wouldn't want to see a situation where we're told that, but then Gravenberch isn't getting rotated for certain games, or Bajcetic isn't given a chance to come in and show what he can do. Ninmoy said, knowing FSG, I'm just seeing at the start of next season, somebody will come out and say, we won the league with this team and we don't want to disrupt the balance. Oh, look, mate, no surer thing than the excuses will start to come out and the narrative starting to be changed. But I just get the feeling that this is a big summer for the support of FSG or not. And I think fans at least tried to understand that Arne Slot, Hughes, Edwards and everybody wanted to assess what they had. So they gave grace periods. Well, I think that's dried up now. Everybody's had long enough to settle into their job, to work with the departments they need to work with, to gather and compile the information, to look over it, to debate the plan for the summer. So there's no excuses now. You know, we didn't extend. These lads have done fuck all year. Now they got to earn their money. We should try put trainee only on the Bayern programme. Oh, the Joshua, what was his name actually? The guy from who was at Schalke and then went to Bayern. What was his name again? Yeah, he became a big, and on the Fernando Torres plan as well, by the way. What was that dude's name? We were linked with him, and I remember Melissa Reddy saying he wanted like 300 grand. Goretzka, wasn't it? Leon Goretzka. I think they wanted like 300 grand a week or something. He wanted at one point. But yeah, he became a tank, didn't he? Same with Fernando Torres. You remember seeing him when he finished up? Sam Lewis said, FSG, would you be outraged if we signed Kirkes, Delap and some cheap right back? Yeah, because we're ignoring centre back, we're ignoring midfield. Yeah, I would. Look, the Kirkes thing, no problem. Sign me up for that. A cheap right back, again, if Bradley's going to be that guy, and the cheap right back is somebody who could get us through a 3-4 game period if Bradley was injured, I could live with that. Delap as the only option up top, no. I would I would absolutely be thinking that that's a cheap out option. Jonathan David has 33 goals and assists in 43 matches. Is valued at 45 million on a free from Lille. Wonder if his stats are any good for the system. He's been looked at. I know Lille were trying to get him to extend. I've no idea how that situation's going. But I don't know. Like, let's say a world existed where Jonathan David and Liam Delap came in and only Darwin was sold. That will be an interesting one as well, because then you've got two forwards that you're not 100% sure about, but would have some credibility. That would be a tough one. I still feel like they were cheaping out, but then again, just throwing a load of dough isn't always the best business, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say I'd be happier for Liverpool to have spent 150 million regardless of who it is. You know, I'm not against smart business of moving a forward on for X amount of money and bringing in somebody for X amount of money if that's a very clear improvement on the one that's moved out. Sam said, Craig, I believe there's a 75% chance we get Isak. That clip of him speaking to Virgil hasn't signed a new contract at Newcastle yet. I believe there is a less than 5% chance we get Isak. And that shrinks even more if Newcastle get Champions League football. But I'd love to be wrong. I'd take Isak in a heartbeat. We'll end up with Delap and David after being linked with Isak, said Hugh Anderson. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to say goodnight. I'm going to go record the late night news video where I'm going to be discussing Dean Huijsen, Ronald Araujo, Mohamed Salah taking a pay cut perhaps. We're going to be talking about Liam Delap and a couple of other bits and pieces. So that'll be out in the next 20-25 minutes. Again, appreciate you all dropping in tonight. If you can, please do hit that like button for me before you head off. And if you haven't subscribed, we'd love you to do that as well. And I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Same time, same place.